Hello and welcome to this video. Today we're going to be talking briefly about developing empathy for people that we hate. And I've heard a wise person once say that if humanity is going to get its act together collectively, then we're all going to have to learn how to have emotional intelligence. And that's not an easy thing or something that happens overnight. And when I heard that, it's like a part of me just like shrieked with an excitement that someone had crystallized what felt so important and vital to me. That statement just really crystallizes a process that is so incredibly vital for all of us to undertake. And that's the development of emotional intelligence or empathic intelligence. And what that means to me is being able to move through the world and see others in a way that is not black and white, in a way that is filled with nuance, filled with understanding, and filled with empathy. And if we can learn how to do that, man, oh man, does life ever get better? Oh my God, does it ever get better? And one of the places for myself that I've found is the most rewarding and challenging place to stretch that empathy open is the places where I have the least empathy, the places where I have hatred or anger or resentment or whatever it is that's keeping me closed and out of empathy and understanding for others. And I got a story that I want to share today that just illustrates some of my experience in this. It's just a very simple story that took place about a year ago. It took place last spring during the initial lockdown of 2020. I was living here in this apartment where I'm filming these videos, and I had a roommate at the time, a next door roommate who lived in that direction from me across the other wall. And he no longer lives there, but at the time, he was relatively new to the building, and I hadn't really had any personal interactions. He seemed very closed off and cagey and angsty. During that initial lockdown, I was spending a lot of time at home because there wasn't really anywhere else that I could go alone, and so was my neighbor. And basically, things got really intense one night when they had started developing a habit of smoking outside their window. And we live in a non-smoking building, and every time that they smoked, I would have my windows open and just clouds of weed smoke would blow into my apartment. And I don't smoke weed, and it's not the worst thing in the world, but every time it happened, it felt like my sanctuary was being invaded. And I just had this automatic, fiery anger response, which I think is very natural and healthy. Because a boundary was being violated. And one night it happened, and I stuck my head out the window, and I could see them, the guy I lived beside, because his window wasn't far from mine. It's just a bit down the wall of the building. I could see them hiding on the inside of their apartment because their window was open facing me, so it was like a mirror reflecting them, hiding, cowering, because they must have heard me approaching and then just cowered back in their apartment. And I could see the joint that they were smoking glowing because it was at night. And so I was just annoyed, and I thought it was childish what was going on. So I just said, "Hey man, are you smoking?" And then I guess they felt angry or emboldened or something by me being a party pooper. And they stuck their head out the window and kind of took a big drag off of their joint, defiantly, and then blew it in the air. And then they just said, "Fuck you, bitch." And then they started just unleashing all sorts of vile anger, swear words, just kind of screaming at me and saying, "I'm moving out of here in a week. I don't care about you. I don't care about this place, and I'm gonna do whatever I want." And I was just shocked because I'm not used to that type of confrontation. And I was in my own home, so it was extremely surprising. I was blindsided by it. And I didn't want to get into some kind of like bar fight with this guy. So I just like very strongly, with a very like loud, deep voice, I just said, okay, so you're violating my boundaries with the smoke, and now you're gonna scream and swear at me about it. Cool. And I just shut the window to my apartment and kind of stewed in anger and confusion at this neighbor of mine. What happened after that altercation is I was just so angry at this person because they were being so obnoxious and aggressive and inappropriate and foul. And, you know, I was just fantasizing about beating them up and just like screaming at them and shaking them and like teaching them a lesson, so to speak. And I was like stewing in anger at them. And also like avoiding seeing them in hallways or whatever, because I also didn't really want to, you know, fly off the handle and scream at them. I knew that wouldn't really serve anything, because as it turned out, they didn't end up moving at the end of that month as they thought they were going to. They ended up staying in my building for many more months, and so I had to carry this discomfort and anger and resentment towards this person. Whenever they would make noise, it would like trigger me, because they had, you know, there was like a raw irritation. And so if they were, you know, talking loudly or listening to music or whatever, whenever they made noise, it's like, this like, there was this like grating anger, resentment, hatred in me. I think hatred might be too strong of a word, but no, probably. I mean, I wanted to beat them up. I would fantasize about that, screaming at them and shaking them. And one day I was on a walk, and I had, you know, one of my goals ongoing in my life is like, it feels like my job, and this relates to that emotional intelligence thing that I said at the start of this video. I feel like my job in life is to learn how to have an open heart, learn how to be in that place of empathy more and more and more, and stretch that and grow that and make it stronger and wider and wiser. And so I just, you know, I was just honest with myself about like the level of anger and resentment that I was carrying towards this person, and that it wasn't going anywhere or helping anything. I'd already kind of like solidified the boundary because they stopped smoking, and they probably were quite embarrassed with themselves for yelling at me, and then like, you know, realizing they weren't gonna move right away, and now they had to live beside this guy. I was on a walk, and I was just feeling the emotional angst that I was carrying, the burden that I was carrying. And then I just decided, okay, Miles, I know you don't want to do this, but why don't you try to look at this person from like, go deeper. Look at like, look as deep as you can at this person and what's going on in their life. And so I just, you know, put my anger and hurt feelings to the side temporarily to just try to look from like an empathic perspective as much as possible at everything I knew about this person, and the good and the bad, the challenges that they might be facing. And the first thing that came to my mind was that this person seemed to be suffering from some pretty severe mental health challenges. They were definitely in a phase of insomnia, because I would hear them at all hours being awake and making noise. And they were also self-medicating with marijuana, because they would leave their apartment like every half hour to hour to go outside and smoke a joint, because I could hear it happening and then smell it. You know, this is during lockdown, so I was at home a lot, and And whenever I heard them speaking on the phone to somebody, it was just very apparent that they were in a pretty dark and tortured place emotionally. And it was being very much aggravated by the experience of isolation they're going through during lockdown. From everything that I was like observing from a distance, his experience with lockdown was pretty brutal and devastating and very difficult, and brought up a lot of demons that he was struggling with. So yeah, this person's going through insomnia, they're self-medicating with marijuana, they're struggling with anxiety. I'm hearing them having screaming matches with people on the phone. So they've got a crazy conflict in their life. And then one of the other things I knew about this person is that he was gay. And I only mention this because, I mean, I have gay friends, and most of them have gone through a difficult experience of being closeted and then coming out, and that can be a very, very wounding, traumatic experience of feeling so ashamed of such an intrinsic part of your identity that you have to keep it hidden and lie about who you are. And like, I'm a straight white male, and I feel like, quite honestly, there are many parts of me that I felt like I had to hide and that were unacceptable. And I can imagine how painful and disorienting and wounding it would be to have something so fundamental to who you are and feel like it's shameful and bad and wrong. And in some cases, not just feel that, but have people actually like dislike you, be mean to you, and be hateful towards you because of something so innocent and fundamental to your character. So, I mean, the more I looked, the more I was like, wow, I wonder what this guy is all being through, you know? Like, God, it shouldn't, as soon as I look, I see all of this stuff that looks like, you know, difficult stuff. It makes me want to cry. As soon as I look, I see his humanity and I relate to it. You know, for me during the lockdown, I was having the time of my life, you know, other than my neighbor being obnoxious. I mean, I was writing a book, I was meditating, I was feeling like emotionally fabulous, but I'm atypical. I had already had years of solitude, so to me, I was like a fish in water. It wasn't an unusual thing to be in unstructured time and be by myself. But really, it took moments for me to just look at the humanity of this person, and all of a sudden, my heart softened. I was still going to have a boundary if they were being obnoxious, but I felt so much compassion for them. And I didn't even care that they had blown up at me, because I had heard them, I knew that that's a relational pattern of theirs, because I'd heard them blow up on the phone, I'd heard them blow up when they had friends over, and I could see how that was a curse of something that was running the show for them. So it might sound like I was in some kind of condescending place, but not at all. I really just felt a sense of compassion and understanding and empathy and humility toward the challenges that that person has faced in their life that I simply haven't. And it's crazy, when I was out for a walk and kind of just like letting myself feel all of this and open up my heart and just feel the tenderness and compassion and understanding there. When I got home from my walk, my neighbor was actually leaving his apartment, and we saw each other and made eye contact and said hi. And he was quite, like, I could feel his remorse for how he had treated me. And I could feel him having respect for me and like respecting my boundaries. And I also felt like embarrassed at myself and ashamed that I had had so much hatred for him, and that I hadn't understood from the very beginning. Like, he's just going through some shit, man. Trust me, he's just going through stuff. and yeah, have boundaries and tell him to pull up his pants and clean up his act. But that I carried a hatred towards him that was really emotionally unintelligent. And so in that moment, I felt honestly ashamed of myself, and in a good way, in a way that just felt like, Miles, come on, man, get it together, have some understanding. So I know that's a small, incidental, and somewhat mundane example of this art of developing empathy or stretching our empathy open when we're hating someone or angry at someone. Of course, there's a lot more that could be said on this subject, but for today, I'm just gonna leave it there. I just wanted to share a little story and I guess underscore the vital importance of stretching our empathy open, particularly in the places where it's closed. And I'm wishing you all the best as you go about your life doing that. And if you enjoyed the video, subscribe, like, comment, all that good stuff. And until next time, I hope you have a wonderful day.